Today we have Maite and Leila, Zamora Moreno, as well as Brix Thomsen, who are in South Africa, and Marlen Vargas. And today we're going to be continuing discussing the very basic layout of why basic income guaranteed and how we came with this proposal. So let's begin with the first point. Why is basic income guaranteed not unconditional?
Well, it is unconditional from the perspective that our focus is on human rights, and therefore human rights should be unconditionally secured. So from that perspective, the basic income is a means to an end and not an end in itself. So that is why we only want to give it to those people who actually are in need of it, because there's just no point giving it to everyone if those people's human rights are already secured. And then the only other objection that we've heard is that apparently it's too costly or too difficult, too much of a hurdle to start selecting the people you want to give it to instead of just giving it to everyone.
Yeah, and in terms of that argument, I question it because there is still the personal income tax that is raised, and to be able to do that effectively and establish what taxes are taken or paid by whom and how much, and then how is the tax redistributed again, you already need access to all of that information in any case. So it's not a new thing to get that information. Obviously, one of the problems is that in the current social assistance type of systems, that means tests have become very complicated because they don't want to give money to people, in essence, because there is a limited government budget, and to be able to limit the amount of people that get a grant, they make up all these tests, like even giving urine samples and things like that. Obviously, if you want to do that, it's going to be a hurdle. But we're not coming from a starting point of let's limit the amount of people who get it. We're looking at let's make sure everyone who needs it gets it, because everyone who needs it, if they don't have it, there's no way they can secure their human rights. So we're also not looking at who deserves it and who do we think will spend the money in a wrongful way. It's not about questions like that. It's really a matter of, is the income there or is it not there? If it's not sufficient, then it must be given unconditionally.
Right, because
and also if you look at the
Go ahead, Leila.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is this is also why big is a nice complementary point to capitalism, because what is the whole point of capitalism is people deciding for themselves how they want to secure their human rights. And it's where you have the whole business venture thing, and I'm going to do it this way, I'm going to follow my path, this is how I want to provide for myself. And the big then comes in for those people who are unable to, in the same way, provide for themselves, so that at least everyone is taken care of.
Exactly, because what we are seeing in our proposal is that if you already have a house, if you have even more than one house, what would you like that money for, correct? So it doesn't make sense.
It's not about having one house. Obviously, you need to have one house, and it's not because you have a house that you have sufficient income to guarantee all your human rights. So if you have two houses, then obviously there's some indication that you don't require basic income.
Exactly. What about the point wherein we are looking at the name itself, basic income guaranteed? Why is it not basic income grant?
Well, grant has often also, same as with the social assistance point, it's always linked to government-funded systems. And there is always a bitterness towards such systems because it's like taking from those who do well for themselves and then giving it to those who are apparently lazy. So it's not about giving handouts. It's not about taking from those who have earned their money. It's about, there are national resources within a country that shouldn't belong to any one person or any group of people. So if you make that a collective point, then that collective point becomes a support, a guaranteed support for anyone who can suddenly lose their means of income. And we're not just talking about those who are stuck in a position of structural unemployment, but anyone, any wealthy person can make a bad investment and require support. So from that perspective, it's guaranteed. It's not about taking from those who have worked for their income and then giving it to someone else.
Yeah, how I see this point is also that guaranteed is, as we were discussing, linked to human rights. So that means that we guaranteed this as a priority, as a birthright, instead of a grant that works like a pension fund, like an insurance that is within the same system that is not really guaranteeing you that you will get that money, but it's, you know, part of this whole chaos that we've made of our economy. Instead, we make it a guaranteed thing that if you don't have the sufficient means to support yourself, obviously you have to get the support. What about the incentive? Because that's like a common question in terms of the lazy people, as we were mentioning. How is this going to work? Because we know that education now will certainly be like an added value to what you will get. Meaning, if you already have your basic income grant, how will the motivation function? How will this point of educating yourself or to work and so forth?
Well, we mentioned this also in the previous hangout, is that alongside the basic income, there would be some structural adjustments, and one of those is a basic minimum wage that should be in place of at least double the basic income to serve as an incentive for people to still go to work. And then your education and how much time, well, not per se time, but however much you invest in education, that will also be linked to your income. If you do more education, you will get a higher income.
Okay. Another point that is very important is the business planning section, because we have a lot of investments going nowhere, as we were mentioning just before. So how is this going to work for in the capitalist system? How is this going to work in relation to business planning, for example, within the basic income structure?
Well, currently a lot of the business planning is done from a casino point of view, where you try it out and you spend lots of money in it. A lot of time goes in it, and you don't really know if it's going to succeed or not. So in the basic income, what we suggest is that there should be some sort of like a planning bureau where you have to go through a specific procedure to ensure that whatever it is you want to do, there is a market for that and it's going to work. Because right now, so many resources are being wasted towards projects that are doomed to fail, but because we don't put the time into investigating whether it's going to work or not, it's just being done and accepted. And that's something we can prevent.
And that would also go hand in hand with, for example, how we advertise products,
Exactly.
Which is an aspect that you guys have also worked with in terms of planned obsolescence. How will this actually change the way that we consume products, that we buy them? How will this work?
Definitely. I mean, advertisement is one of the ways where we have now changed our economy from a demand-driven economy to a supply-driven economy, simply where people see that they can produce a certain product, preferably one that doesn't last very long. They will simply produce it and then they'll make a market for it through advertisement. But consumers in the first place, before the product was there, no one needed it. No one even thought of it or considered it. So it's like the market is created simply for the purpose of making profit, and within that, so many resources are also wasted. So in looking firstly at the business planning point, where firstly you have to prove that there is actually already a market for it. Before any advertisement is introduced, there are actually people who are asking for the particular product or service that you are willing to provide. And secondly, any advertisement should be simply informational. How would you call them? Infomercials.
Yeah.
Where it's not commercials, but infomercials where you simply place, look, this is the product or this is the service, this is how it could benefit you, these are the materials that were utilized within it, these are the people that are involved, and that's it. Or this is how long it will last you. That's just something that should be mentioned from the very start.
Yes.
And then purely information-based, can people actually make their decisions? Because that is one of the principles of capitalism. One of the basic assumptions is that consumers make rational and informed decisions. But that's not happening at the moment. So the markets are not working effectively. And that's why that's one of the reasons why the world is in such big trouble, because we are not living according to the principles that an effective market is supposed to work according to.
I mean, it's like Chomsky says, what do you say? It should work according to informed consumers making rational decisions, but the whole marketing and advertisement industry is all about making us uninformed and making irrational decisions based on emotions rather than, actually making decisions that are best for us.
And also the aspect wherein people would not actually have money to buy, which also makes the whole problem in economy, because how do you want to be a successful capitalist if you have a large section, the majority of the people just living on a minimum wage or not money at all? So how will this change, obviously, how capitalism works?
Well, you'll definitely have a much bigger demand, especially if you're selling products that are worthy, that are life supportive. There will suddenly be a whole market that wasn't there before, simply because those people didn't have money. So if you are a good capitalist, an effective capitalist, someone with a good business mind, there will still be a place for you, and you will probably do very well. But it's about not fooling people and not taking, you're working with people. Your consumers are people. It's about serving the people. It's not about taking advantage of them. We have to step away from that, the kind of abusive system that we've kind of created, and go back to support, doing something that has worth, that has value, so that the payments you receive, your income, also reflects the worth. It's literally society giving back to you because you've given something to them that they really appreciate.
Yeah, it's like our whole economy has been so dehumanized. Even if you look at prices, I mean, what are prices supposed to be? They're supposed to reflect the cost and the labor that's gone into producing something. But now we have this whole economy and consumerism lifestyle where we just want to have things cheap. All we look at, is it cheap? Do I have the best deal? And we forget that there's actually people behind those products who made those products who may not be able to make a living because you want those cheap prices. It's like we've become so focused with the numbers and the best deals, we forget the human aspect of everything that is here in our economy.
Exactly, which is why also it's very important to remind ourselves that we cannot just get rid of money, because money will become that rights document. Like, this is the money that you are given as a birthright to be able to partake in this new economic system, which, as Maite was explaining very well, it has to change from the perspective of going from this abusive, this making you buy just because you are enticed to it at an emotional level, and instead produce products that will keep the people happy, the consumer happy, as everyone else that will have the money to do so, and the person that has that corporation or that runs that business also happy. So how can you describe this aspect of the general well-being that comes with this certainty that money brings?
How do you describe it? It's fascinating when you've lived a life where such points have always been kind of secured. Like, if I look at my own personal life, there was never a point where I was in trouble. But we live in South Africa, and we see it every day. People struggling for the most basic things, where there is no water, for instance. People who have a rain tank, but here in summer it's the dry season, there is no water. So, I mean, those are simple things that people shouldn't worry about. Those basic points, you take it so for granted, but for many people that's a daily struggle. And to take that away, and for those people to be able to consider life as something to live in, not something to survive in, I mean, it becomes a whole different story.
Exactly. Leila, would you like to add something to that?
No, I completely agree.
Okay. What about people that were proposing, like, let's say, moneyless societies or resource-based societies? Why do we see this as not an option to go for? Why do we propose that basic income is obviously still based on a monetary system?
Well, it's simply because money is a very practical tool and medium to do things. Even if we can get ourselves to stop worshipping money, it will simply have an accounting function, and it's a way for us to see, okay, how many resources are we using, how much is left. You know, it's a way to be able to calculate and predict things. It's just practical.
Exactly. Okay, well, what about our current platform that we are proposing, presenting, which is the Basic Income website? Can you tell us more about it? What does it contain? What is it for?
Okay, just hang on. We're trying to show the website.
Yeah, it's showing now.
Okay, cool. So Basic Income Guarantee is a basic platform where we want to share current news showing the problems in terms of human rights violations that are becoming more and more severe. And then one section for blogs where we discuss solutions, and then a section with videos about not just our proposal, but also other basic income proposals, getting it all together on one website, Basic Income Guaranteed. And then we have a discussion section on this website where we really would like people to engage, give their perspective. There are some topics there that one can answer to, but one can also just make new topics. And it would be really cool to get some discussion going there.
Cool. What about people that might want to share their videos there? What do they have to do?
They can just share it on the discussion page, which should be showing right now. They can just share it there, and from there we will put it on the homepage.
Okay, cool. Well, what about our current discussions going, meaning with the Google Hangouts? We would like people also to participate in this discussion section so that we can take topics from there to bring them on to the Google Hangout. And as such, through reading all the blogs that are being published, then people can actually go making questions. Like in all the various topics, we have a lot of variety, a large variety of topics now. So you can just go there, see the topic that you're interested in, make the questions so that we can then discuss them here. So let's just say the URL, which is basicincome.me, which is a very cool one. And, well, would you guys like to add anything, or we rather just finish it? Right?
I would also say to check out the Facebook page that we have, which is Marlen. Can you share?
Well, we will share we will share the URL in the info section of this video. It's Basic Income Guaranteed by Equal Life Foundation. Why are we proposing this? Because we want a world that provides for everyone equally. So to understand why and how, you can also go to the blog, which is a specialized place where we are sharing all this, basicincomeguaranteed.wordpress.com. It will also be in the info section of this video, wherein you can also make comments directly in the blog, and we will also take that information and explain how things will work. Well, thank you guys a lot. Very informative. And we will see you next week. We will have now the actual session with questions and perspectives, as we had said before.